What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon Furrow, and I'm here today to talk to you about time management. Time management is one way of describing how you operate within the time that you're given. Time is one of those things that we really can't control. We really can't control how much time we have in a day, but we know that it's there. We know we have 24 hours in a day to make whatever we have to do count. So, I just want to give you some tips on how to make the day count. That's what it's really all about. The truth is that we can't manage time because time is out of our control. But what we can do is manage our reputation and manage our productivity within the time that we're given. So if you're given 24 hours in a day, how do you make those 24 hours count? How do you make the 24 hours in a day count? Or let's say you sleep for about 8 hours of the day. That leaves us with 16 hours left. How do you make those 16 hours count? Do you spend it watching YouTube, watching Netflix, TikToks? What do you do that makes the day worth it? What do you do that makes you feel like now at the end of the day, this was a good day? I really want to talk about different principles of life that allow you to operate in this whole concept of time management and the concept of time that makes it count for you the most. One of the things that matters the most to me is reputation, the legacy of reputation. What do you leave behind? What do people say about you when you're no longer in the room? Because that's a true testament of how you managed the time that you were given here. What do you do that makes people want to say, I've got this job opening, I wonder if they'll be good for it? Or I know they'll be good for it just by the way that they've managed themselves over the years. I always actually like to be early for work. And I know that's a concept that has to be developed with maturity, because sometimes people think, oh, if I have to be to work at 9 o'clock, then I need to show up at 9 o'clock. Quick question. How early should you show up to a job interview? If you said 15 to 20 minutes, you're absolutely correct. Showing up early to a job interview lets the potential employer know that they don't have to worry about you showing up on time. And that's good time management. Your ability to show up early lets people know that they can depend on you. Sometimes you just need to be briefed for the day. Sometimes you have no idea what you're walking into for the day. Okay, so tip number 1 is to plan ahead for technical difficulties. Try to think ahead for the things that are out of your control that may happen on your way to work or on your way to school. I think it's a good idea to just really demonstrate our ability to care enough about people. I think if you have a good supervisor, they're not aloof to the understanding that sometimes life happens. So you shouldn't be worried about losing your job the first time that you may show up late. The goal is for you to be so professional about it that the company honors the way that you take care of things. What will happen is, and you may be shocked by this, but people will identify with your reasonings more often than not because it probably has happened to them. When you're honest and you're transparent about what's going on and why you're running late, why you're having these technical difficulties, then that gives you the option to really connect with your supervisor, but also it lets them know, okay, you're human. this is something that happens and you're not just trying to get by. I think as a manager, one of the things that bothers me about people is when they show up late to work and then they act like they don't even care. Like, oh, well, you're lucky that I'm here. No, that's not the mentality to have. To walk into a job with this level of arrogance that is like, I don't feel like doing anything today, that's not good time management. To walk into work and say, oh, you're lucky that I'm here today, that's not good time management, because guess what? You decided what you wanted from this job. You decided that you wanted the job. You decided that you wanted the paycheck from the job. So why is it that you treat your supervisor as if they're happy or they should be lucky that you've shown up? That's not fair to your supervisor. That's not fair to the job. So when you come in with a professional attitude, when you're having technical difficulties, address it with a professional attitude. If you caught on already, it's really about the attitude that goes towards how you plan or what you do. Can you still say, hey, I had a flat tire, I'm doing my best to get there on time? That's a good attitude. And attitude, as they say, is altitude. It will take you places that you yourself can't get to by yourself. Okay, another quick question. How early should you show up to work? If you said 10 minutes, you're absolutely correct again. Give yourself a sense of cushion to get to work and to get to work before your shift starts. You'll be fine. My second tip is for you to transform your vision into written format. Some people like to do vision boards. Vision boards are pretty cool. I'm not the biggest fan of vision boards because I know that sometimes our visions may be misled by what we see other people doing. I think what we have to do is we have to establish what our vision is, what our goal is, what are our priorities. So is the goal for you to achieve a promotion? Is the goal for you to establish great connections with people and a great network with people that will allow you to elevate later in life? Whatever that vision is, make sure that you write it out. If your vision has some long-term and some short-term goals, then write them out and even organize them. Okay, here are my short-term goals. So by the end of 3 months, I want to improve my job performance. By the end of the year, I want to apply for a position in management. All these are really good examples of short-term goals, because remember, short-term goals are goals that are done in less than a year. Thinking about long-term goals, write out your long-term goals. What do you want? Do you want to go to college? Whatever it is, write it out. So I know that for some of my teenagers, like getting a car is a really big deal. When you are writing out that vision for getting a car, you are able to organize those thoughts as well. So understanding that it's not just about the purchase of the car, but it's also about getting the insurance and how much is insurance going to cost. Insurance is typically pretty high for teenagers because the teenagers are considered inexperienced drivers. What is it that you want to do when you get the car? You got to put gas into the car. So the car is just not going to magically run off of your ambition. I wish that were the case, but it's not. So you have to think about the cost of the car, the cost of insurance, the cost of gas, the oil changes and maintenance that you'll need. If you get a flat tire, what are you going to do? I can tell you that in my youth and my inexperience and in my lack of mentorship, I had no idea what to do when I got a flat tire. By myself, I did not know. Now I can change a flat tire in no time. It took me time and it took effort and it took experience doing it wrong and doing it right in order to get better at changing a tire. Something so simple, yet some people, even some adults, still can't do to this day. I'll tell you the story of when I was younger. My aunt had given me her old car. It was this uh, blue 1988 Ford Taurus. And when I say that thing looked old, it was old. This was one of my first cars. It had that suede gray interior. It had that look where it wasn't even a solid color in the paint anymore. It was like that acid rain had rained down on it and just took some of the paint off. It was not a pretty car, but I was doing what I had to do to get around, and so it was getting me to school and it was getting me around. And then one day I came out to the driveway and the tire on the back of the car was flat, and I was like, wow, I guess I need to find another car to drive. So instead of fixing what I had, I was just like, oh, I just need something new. I need something else. And that was I wish I just had somebody to tell me, like, yo, just change the tire, like the car will be fine. But nope, I had it made up in my mind I was gonna drive another car and let that sit. And I ended up giving the car away to some junkyard and asking them to come and pick it, because my mom was like, you need to get that thing out of my driveway. And they came and got it, and my aunt was very upset with me that I just gave the car away without even talking to her first. These are some of the mistakes that I've made in my youth that that if I could go back, I would change just the way that I do things. But it's my motivation for talking to you guys about how to change the way that you look at your resources, change the way that you look at time, and how you approach different scenarios. So when it comes to step number 2 in transferring our visions into our written goals, we understand that the importance of that is so that we can not only say this is what we want, but then we add depth to it. We understand why we want what we want, and then we create this timeline of when we want it. And so when we're thinking about time management, one of the things to consider is timelines. Is this a short-term goal? Is this a long-term goal? Do I need this right now? Do I need this 5 months from now? Do I need this 5 years from now? What is it that you need, and why do you need it? And so when you add a little bit of oomph to your reason, when you add a little bit of muscle to it, when you add a little bit of depth to the reason why you want what you want, it gives you the opportunity to prioritize within transferring your vision into a written form. And that's important. Write it out. Sometimes it's good to write it out so that other people can hold you accountable for what you said that you're going to do. And, as a teenager, the main people that hold you accountable are your guardians, whether they're your, mom or dad, or mom and dad, or your grandmom or aunt, uncle, or even if you're living with somebody who's not related to you. Like, all those things are options, but they're all people who, if they are your guardian, then one of the things that they should be responsible for is making sure that you increase your accountability as a practice. So what do you say that you're going to do? And can you actually get it done? But as we're thinking about writing out our goals, writing out our visions, we want to make sure that these visions and these goals exist on timelines. And a timeline will allow you to see what your priorities are and where they lie and how soon do you need to get certain things done. Graduating high school has to be done before you can graduate college. There's no other way around that. You can think about what college you want to go to, what do you want to major in as you're in high school, and then that can help govern how you treat high school and what exactly you want to accomplish while you're there. Do you want to do the extracurricular activities, or how do you want your GPA to be? You being accountable really brings me to my third tip. realistic and honest about your capabilities. So my third tip is for you to be realistic and honest about what you say that you can do in the future. If you do not have the ability to show up to work at 8 o'clock in the morning because maybe the buses don't run at that time, or maybe your ride can't get you there, or maybe you just know yourself well enough to say, I cannot wake up before 10 o'clock in the morning, then don't sign yourself up for a job where you're going to have to be to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's not fair to the job, and it's not fair to you. So when you're honest about your capacity to do the things that you say that you're going to do, then it makes life easier for the job, and it makes life easier for you. As a teenager, you have to consider your work schedule, your school schedule, and the balance between the two, and even to throw in your home life and the things that you have to do at home or in your community. I think that you would do yourself a disservice if you overly commit yourself to something that you know that you really can't do. Because the truth is, anytime that you want something, it is going to require a level of sacrifice. You are going to have to put something aside in order to get what you want. There is a cost to everything. What is it that you actually want, and what is it that you're willing to give up? Okay, when we think about this whole concept of cost and benefit, you think about when you go through the drive-thru of your favorite fast food restaurant and you want the number 2, or you want the number 6, or you want the number 7, you're going to have to pay for it before you even receive the food. And that's the same thing with pretty much everything in life. That is going to cost you a level of sacrifice. It's going to cost you something. It may cost you some time. It may cost you energy. It may cost you something. But believe me when I tell you that everything that you want, you're going to have to put forth something for. And sometimes that requires just letting some things go. In order to get your foot on second base, you got to take your foot off of first base. You don't want to overly commit yourself. You don't want to commit yourself to something that you really realistically cannot do. And so your ambition may be, all right, if I start working and I work this amount of hours and I'm getting paid this amount of money, then by the time I get to this month, then I will be able to afford a car. But you know that you have cheerleading practice, or you know you have basketball practice, or you know that you have to do this thing with your family every once a week. Like whatever your commitments are, you have to be able to cognitively balance. You have to be able to cognitively balance what you say that you're going to do and what you're already committed to what you want to do. So there has to be a balance of what you're already responsible for versus what you want to be responsible for. And there will require a level of sacrifice in between in order for you to do what you say that you're going to do. And that's just how it works. All right, so a quick recap. Step number 1, plan ahead for technical difficulties. This gives you that opportunity to see what obstacles may come against you showing up to work on time, or you showing up to class on time, or whatever it is that you have to show up to on time, making sure that those obstacles can be removed with pre-planning. Step number 2 is to transfer your vision into written form. So what is it that you want? Why do you want it? And then how can you create a timeline for it to get it done? Step number 3 is to make sure that you are honest and realistic about your capabilities. What are the things that you can accomplish versus the things that you can't? All right, and what level of sacrifice will it cost you in order to make things work? My last tip for you is to always reevaluate. go back and look at what you said you were going to do. So this is like that checklist. Did I accomplish this? Yes. Did I do this? Yes. Did I do this? No. So, what is it that you said that you were going to do, and did you accomplish it well? How well did it work for you? Did it fit? Did showing up to work at 7 o'clock in the morning work well for you, or was it detrimental to your sleep schedule because you were up on TikTok all night? What is it that you said that you were going to do, and did you accomplish it well? When we reevaluate what is happening in our lives, we see, is it working or is it not? So I love the concept of reevaluating because it allows you to think about, is there an alignment between what I said I wanted to do and my end goal, or what I want to accomplish? And sometimes what you want to accomplish is simply just your reputation. And what do you want with your reputation? With reevaluating, it's that reflection period. Reflect back on how well you think you did, or how well others said that you did. So on the job, you will typically get a 30, 60, or 90-day review that lets you know how well you're doing. It will be your evaluation of what are your strengths, and then also what are some things that you can improve upon. And these are good for those who are really looking to improve, because it's saying in your evaluation, this is what you can do better. Everyone should be able to accept this level of criticism without really being offended that sometimes we just don't do everything perfectly. And so what are some of the things that you can do better? And is the person that's telling me this someone who sees me for what I really am? Sometimes you do have those people who are evaluating you or overseeing you in some capacity that may not really see your strengths the way that they are. Maybe you did something and they didn't notice it. And so that's your opportunity to come back and say, okay, let me show this a little bit stronger. Let me do this better. Let me be more visible with the way that they see the way that I do X, Y, and Z. This is just a quick and simple assessment of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do we need more of, what do we need less of, and what are you doing that needs to just stay on track, or that you're doing so well that we have no criticisms for it. Especially when it's that good constructive criticism, let it make you better. Let it make you a better person, a better worker, a better student. In my younger years, when I first started working, I was not always open to criticism. I was not always open to feedback. I wanted to know that everything that I was doing was amazing, and if you had anything else to say that was contrary to the point, I did not want to hear it. And so there was this one time where I was given this opportunity to speak at this major event held at the DoubleTree Hotel. You had wall-to-wall people, everyone was dressed up, and I was one of the youth speakers. And I was so used to presenting in small groups that I'd had no idea what speaking in front of a large group and like a lecture style would be like. And so I thought that it was about audience participation and that it was just going to be a larger size of what I'm used to. But this actually was nothing that I was used to. And people kept asking me, are you prepared for your speech? Are you prepared for your speech? And I was like writing out posters like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be fine. This is gonna be easy. And and it was horrible. And I was out there and I was stuttering, and that was one of the best failures that I could have had in my life. Yes, sometimes failure is good. That was one of the best failures that I had in my life, because I realized being up there and speaking in front of a group of people in a formal setting is a lot different than presenting to about 10 to 15 people. And so what you have to do is you have to organize your thoughts, and you have to have a way of speaking that is not only relevant but informative, and you have to be able to project and not assume that you will have audience feedback. It allowed me to reevaluate what I thought I was competent in doing. And so speaking in front of a bunch of people seemed like it was cake work and that it was easy and it was something that I could easily do. But what I did realize when I had my reality check was that this is going to be harder than what I thought. And so the next time that I accomplish this task, the next time that I have to do this, I'll be prepared. And from then on, my speeches got better. I've done speeches in front of Legislative Hall, and I've done speeches in front of crowds of 800. What I understand better now is that there are things that exist in different capacities. And so in one capacity, it's cool to just be laid back and informal. Another capacity, you have to be more formal, you have to be more direct and intentional. It truly is a goal of mine that you'll watch this video series and say, how can I be more intentional about the way that I am treating other people, or the way that I am presenting myself to other people? And it's my hopes that you will be intentional about the way that you're impressive towards your current employer or your potential employers and people who may be able to offer you opportunities that you don't even know exist. Okay, so let's conclude. Here are my 4 tips for time management. Tip number 1, plan ahead for technical difficulties. Give yourself a little cushion to get to work or to get to the job interview. Tip number 2 is to transfer your vision into written format. Put it on a calendar, put it in your phone, put it in a vision board, whatever you have to do to keep yourself accountable. Tip number 3 is to make sure that you're honest and realistic about your capabilities. Don't sign yourself up for things that you cannot do. And tip number 4, last but not least, always reevaluate. Self-reflect. Look at what's happening in the situation, what works versus what doesn't work. If you follow those 4 tips for time management, I do believe that you'll be on track to being better with your time. So, until next time, be kind, be courteous, be encouraged.